Good morning. It's Wednesday, the 3rd of June, and we are well on our way in the gifts of the Spirit in 1 Corinthians 12. But faith is a big one. Faith is going to take a bit of time, probably 2 sessions. Faith is difficult for one thing because the great tradition of Judaism and Christianity has been around for 3,500 years and over the course of multiple languages. The Old Testament Hebrew word for faith is emet and its cognates, and it has to do with faithfulness, loyalty, trustworthiness, and obedience. We actually have a cognate of that in our English language. The word amen is actually a cognate of the Hebrew word emet, and we say it at the ends of prayers to assert that this is faithful and this is in line with the way Christians ought to be praying. And we used to do the same thing with the plagal cadence at the end of hymns, the Amen, a nice 4-1 cadence. We don't do that with the end of every hymn, and I'm not so sure that that was a good move to do that. But that was the understanding of the Hebrews. A great example of their understanding of faith was the test of Abraham. God tested Abraham to see whether he was faithful by saying, I want you to sacrifice your son Isaac on the mountain that I will show to you. And Abraham is faithful, and he is loyal, and he is obedient, and he is willing to do what God commands. And it's only at the last minute, as you know, that the angel intervenes and stops his hand and shows him the ram that God would have him sacrifice instead of Isaac. So that is emet. Now you move into the Greek New Testament, and the Greek word pisteuo and its cognates is used, but it has more to do with believing. Now, it is Jews that are wielding that word. Jesus was a Jew. Paul was a Jew. The other writers of the New Testament, as far as we are aware, were mostly Jews. And even when they're not, they understand it in a Jewish context. So you can say, I believe, but I believe also it's a declaration of faithfulness and loyalty and obedience to God. As you move forward, we'll get to Martin Luther tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to cover that today. But as you get into the modern era and secularism takes over, we say, I believe or I have faith without reference to whom it is we are faithful or loyal or obedience. You got to have faith that the Mets are going to win the World Series this year. Well, that's basically faith is believing an impossible thing. It doesn't even look like we're going to have a full season, and the Mets are going to be at the bottom of the barrel because that's who they are and that's what they do. You might say, well, you have to have faith that the land that I'm about to sell you in Florida, that beautiful grove of grapefruit trees, is going to produce, and you're going to be wealthy beyond your wildest imagination. There you start to have a little bit of the sense of trusting the person who's selling you the grapefruit grove. But it is a faith which, again, is believing something that may or may not be true. It's not so much the faithfulness and loyalty thing. Well, I could go on with that, except to say that as Christians and Jews understand faith, it is not without reference to the one to whom we are faithful and loyal and trustworthy and obedient. Faith has to do with a relationship. The relationship that we have with God. It is not, as the Queen of Hearts said to Alice, believing 6 impossible things before breakfast. That is a secular use of the word without reference to the God whom we are called to be faithful to. As Paul lists the fruits of the Spirit, or the gifts of the Spirit, the third of these is faith. Have a good day.